Amara woke up to the bright Kampala sun spilling through her window, her heart buzzing with excitement. Today wasn't just any day. It was her 18th birthday. She had imagined it for weeks. Friends laughing, music filling the living room, colorful balloons everywhere. She even pictured her father smiling proudly as everyone sang for her. At breakfast, she tried to drop hints as casually as she could. "So maybe a small birthday thing this year?" she asked, stirring her tea, careful not to sound too hopeful. Her father, Mr. Okello, looked up from his newspaper, his brow furrowed. "Money's tight, Amara. No party this year," he said firmly. Her chest sank like a stone. She had rehearsed her disappointment 1,000 times in front of the mirror, but now it hit her all at once. She forced a smile, nodding politely, trying to hide the sting in her eyes. The pancakes tasted like cardboard, and even her favorite mango juice couldn't cheer her up. As she got dressed for school, she lingered a little longer in front of the mirror, brushing her hair more slowly than usual. She imagined everyone at her friends' parties, laughing and taking pictures, while she walked quietly past her own empty living room. She wanted to shout, to cry, maybe even slam her bedroom door, but she couldn't. Not at him. She loved her dad, even when he was stubborn or serious, even when he seemed blind to what she wanted. But deep down, a tiny spark of something else stirred, a mix of hurt and determination. Today was her birthday, yes, but maybe it didn't have to be exactly the way he said. Maybe, just maybe, she could still make it unforgettable. At lunch, Amara sat under the big mango tree in the school courtyard, trying to push the disappointment from the morning out of her mind. She scrolled through Instagram, hoping funny videos or memes would take her mind off the day. But instead of laughing, her thumb froze mid-scroll. Her father's name popped up on her feed, and her heart sank again. The post wasn't just a photo. It was a whole story, a montage of laughter and luxury. There he was, smiling in a crisp shirt, glasses glinting under golden lights. Around him, friends clinked glasses, a private chef plated fancy dishes, and a live band played soft jazz. Candles flickered on a table covered with flowers, and everything screamed elegance and money spent freely. Amara's jaw dropped. How can he say no to me, then do this?" she whispered to herself, her voice trembling. It didn't make sense. She thought maybe she'd misunderstood. Maybe this was something he couldn't control. But no, it was right there on her screen, undeniable. Her friends, noticing her shocked expression, leaned closer. "Amara, what's wrong?" asked Zola, her best friend. Amara hesitated, then reluctantly showed them the post. The whispers started, soft at first, then growing louder, carrying a mix of disbelief and gossip through the table. The feeling inside Amara twisted, betrayal, embarrassment, anger. She had trusted him, had followed his rules, had smiled politely when he said no. And here he was, enjoying a night out, splurging on people and things she wasn't allowed. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about trust, respect, being seen. She felt small, like her excitement and dreams didn't matter. The courtyard suddenly felt louder, everyone else's laughter and chatter hitting her like a wave. She scrolled again, hoping maybe she'd miss something, but every news story confirmed the same thing. The contrast between his words and his actions burned inside her. Amara clenched her phone tightly, trying to steady her breathing. Part of her wanted to storm home and confront him, to demand an explanation, to scream her hurt. But another part, quieter and sharper, began to form. Maybe this wasn't just about disappointment. It was a spark that could turn hurt into action, frustration into something unforgettable. For the first time that day, she felt a little pulse of excitement, not for a party her father had denied, but for the thought that she might just take matters into her own hands. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. That evening, Amara paced the small living room, glancing at the clock every few minutes. The sun had dipped below the Kampala skyline, painting the sky in orange and purple, and yet her heart was too restless to enjoy it. She had rehearsed what she would say 100 times, but now that the moment was here, the words felt both too simple and too heavy. The door clicked open, and her father stepped inside, briefcase in hand, his usual calm expression hiding nothing. Amara took a deep breath and held her phone up, almost like a shield. "Dad, I saw your story," she said, her voice shaking but loud enough to make him stop. Mr. Okello froze for a moment, then let out a nervous laugh. It's just a business dinner," he mumbled, trying to wave it off. But Amara's chest tightened, and the quiet house suddenly felt too small. "Just a business dinner?" she repeated, her voice rising a little. "You said money was tight. You told me no party this year. And then you—" her words stumbled, caught between hurt and anger. "You post all of this." Her father tried to meet her gaze, but she could see the discomfort in his eyes. He opened his mouth, maybe to explain, maybe to defend himself, but she shook her head. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about trust, about honesty, about feeling respected and valued. Amara's emotions surged. Every laugh from the lunch courtyard, Every Instagram story she had scrolled through, every quiet disappointment she had swallowed, it all collided in her chest. I just don't get it, she said, her hands trembling. If we can afford this, why not for me? Why not even a small party? Why lie? Her father looked down, silent, the weight of her words settling around him. Amara's anger softened slightly, replaced by a sharper clarity. This wasn't just about a party. It was about her learning who she was, what she deserved, and what she wouldn't ignore. She realized that if she waited for permission or validation, she might always be disappointed. For the first time, she felt a quiet, burning resolve grow inside her. Hurt, yes, but also determination. She loved her father, and she wanted to understand him, but she would no longer let this moment pass without making herself hurt. Tonight wasn't just about disappointment. It was about standing up, taking control, and claiming her voice. And she knew deep down she was ready to do just that. The next afternoon, Amara sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, her phone in hand, scrolling through ideas and trying to calm her racing mind. The sting from the night before still lingered, but now it was mixed with a spark, an idea that refused to let her sit quietly. She needed allies. She needed a plan. She called Zola first. Her best friend arrived within the hour, carrying a backpack stuffed with snacks and notebooks, eyes curious but alert. So Spill, what's going on? You look like someone just stole your soul, Zola teased, though there was concern behind her smile. Amara showed her the Instagram story again, letting the images speak for themselves. He said no, she said quietly, and then went out there, spending like it's nothing, all without telling me. It's not just the money, it's everything. The trust, the respect. Her voice cracked slightly and Zola frowned. That's wow, Zola said, shaking her head. He really did you dirty. She paused, then her eyes lit up. Okay, but what if you flip this? What if you show him, and everyone else, that you don't need him to make your birthday special? Amara blinked, the idea sinking in. It was bold, maybe even a little risky, but it felt perfect. She could take control, celebrate her way, and send a clear message. But she'd need help. She thought of Tendai, her older cousin, someone she trusted to have her back and offer wisdom without judgment. By evening, Tendai was in the room, leaning against the doorframe. Amara laid out her plan in fragments, ideas tumbling out. A small gathering, her own decorations, maybe even a little music, and capturing everything online like her father did. Tendai listened carefully, nodding, occasionally asking questions that sharpened her thinking. You're not just throwing a party, he said finally. You're making a point. Make it clever, make it unforgettable. And make sure it's you who shines, not the drama. The three of them started sketching details. Who to invite, how to manage the budget from Amara's tutoring money, even ways to decorate without breaking the bank. Laughter started creeping into the room, soft at first, then louder, full of excitement and mischief. By the time they were done, Amara felt a rush of energy she hadn't had since the morning of her birthday. This wasn't about revenge in a mean way. It was about proving she mattered, that she could create joy on her own terms, and that her voice counted. Her father might have tried to dismiss her, but now the tables were starting to turn. And as she lay down that night, her mind buzzing with ideas and plans, she realized this birthday might become more than just a day. It could be a statement. She smiled, a little wicked, a little proud, knowing that tomorrow, the real work would begin. Amara woke up early, a mix of nerves and excitement fluttering in her chest. Today was the day she would finally take control of her birthday. She had rented a small garden on the outskirts of Lusaka, a quiet, leafy place with strings of lights and enough space for her friends and family. Every detail had been planned carefully, from the music playlist to the little DIY decorations she had made herself. She spent the morning setting up, unpacking boxes of balloons, fairy lights, and colorful tablecloths. Her savings from tutoring and online work had gone into this, and she checked the budget one last time. It had been tight, but she had managed to stretch every coin, even borrowing a few decorations from friends to make the space feel magical. Invitations had gone out quietly, just texts and calls to neighbors, cousins, and a few close family friends who she knew would understand. No one else could know, especially her father. That part was important. She wanted the moment to be entirely hers, a surprise she could share with the world in her own way. By midday, the garden was buzzing with quiet energy as her friends arrived early to help her finish setting up. A small speaker played soft music while fairy lights twinkled overhead. She arranged simple yet elegant plates of snacks and treats, pretending she was a professional event planner. Every little detail mattered. Amara also made sure to document everything. Her phone was ready to capture the decorations, the food, even the little moments of laughter as her friends helped string lights or arrange flowers. She mimicked the style of her father's social media posts, the way he framed moments, the slow, careful pan over food, the candid smile. She wanted to show that she could create her own story, her own celebration, without anyone's approval. As guests trickled in, the garden came alive. Kids ran around, cousins chatted excitedly, and friends laughed at the small jokes and mishaps that made the day feel real. Amara felt a thrill she hadn't expected. This was her birthday on her terms. The irony wasn't lost on her. While her father had said no, she had pulled off a celebration that looked just as grand, if not more personal and meaningful, than anything he had planned for his dinner. She paused for a moment, looking around at the lights, the smiling faces, the little plates of food she had prepared herself. Her chest swelled with pride. Today wasn't just a party. It was proof that she could turn disappointment into something beautiful, that she could be resourceful, creative, and independent. And as she picked up her phone to start posting stories, she knew the real reveal, the one her father wasn't ready for, was about to begin. The sun was beginning to dip low when Amara picked up her phone and tapped Go Live on Instagram. She felt a mix of nerves and excitement. This was it, the moment she had been building toward for days. The small garden was glowing under the strings of lights, laughter echoing from every corner, and the smell of snacks and sweet treats filled the air. She wanted the world, and especially her father, to see what she had created. "Hey everyone," she said into the camera, her smile bright and a little mischievous. "Welcome to my birthday party." She panned the phone slowly across the garden, showing friends clapping, decorations twinkling, and little plates of food arranged neatly on tables. "No, my dad didn't throw this. Yes, I did it all myself," she added, her voice steady. Somewhere in Kampala, Mr. Okello sat scrolling through his phone during a rare quiet moment after his dinner. His thumb froze mid-scroll as he saw the live video pop up. His eyes widened, and he whispered to himself, "Wait, what is this?" The camera captured it all. Friends laughing as they tried to light sparklers, cousins sneaking bites of cupcakes, and Amara in the center, glowing with pride. The way she had framed the video, it looked effortless, fun, and full of joy. Every little detail, lights, food, music, was there, undeniable proof that she had made this happen on her own. Back in the garden, the energy was electric. Guests cheered for her, teasing and applauding her creativity and independence. Zola gave her a high five, Tendai clapped from the side, and even some neighbors shook their heads in admiration. Every cheer, every laugh, every sparkle of light reinforced the statement Amara was making. She didn't need approval. She could turn disappointment into celebration. Meanwhile, Mr. Okello scrolled slowly through the comments, stunned. People were complimenting her, asking where she had gotten the decorations, praising her organization. He felt a mix of pride and embarrassment. Pride because his daughter had clearly grown into someone capable, and embarrassment because she had done it without him, using the same style he loved to show off on Instagram. Amara kept the live going for a few more minutes, capturing the little moments. A friend twirling under the lights, cupcakes being handed around, and her own laughter ringing out. Every second was proof of her independence and determination, and the irony wasn't lost on her. She had taken a no and turned it into a public celebration that her father couldn't ignore. By the time the live ended, she felt a rush of satisfaction. The garden buzzed around her, full of life, joy, and applause. Somewhere, her father was scrolling, silent, absorbing the lesson. And in that moment, Amara realized that she had not just celebrated a birthday, she had made a statement. She had shown that she could create her own moments, own her own joy, and rise above disappointment with style and confidence. By the time Mr. Okello arrived at the garden, the sky had turned a deep purple and the fairy lights glimmered like tiny stars. He parked the car a little awkwardly, taking a deep breath before stepping out. His usual calm, confident demeanor was gone, replaced by something more human. Hesitation, unease, and maybe even shame. He had expected a quiet evening at home, not a lively garden full of neighbors, friends, and family celebrating his daughter's birthday without his knowledge. Amara noticed him instantly. She straightened, smoothing her dress, and walked toward him with a calm, confident smile. "Dad," she said softly, but with an edge that made him stop in his tracks. "You said no. But I didn't let that stop me." He opened his mouth, probably to defend himself, but the sight around him, the lights, the laughter, the decorations, made his usual words stumble in his throat. Amara's friends, standing nearby, started cheering lightly, clapping her on the back, whispering congratulations. The energy was infectious, and even Mr. Okello felt it pressing on him. It wasn't just a party, it was a statement, and everyone around him knew it. He tried to explain, fumbling with excuses about business, responsibility, and timing, but Amara held up a hand, cutting him off. "No, Dad," she said firmly, her voice calm but unwavering. "I get it. I understand what you wanted, but I also know what I can do. I can make things happen. I can celebrate life, even if it's not on your terms." Her words struck him. She wasn't the little girl who had begged for a party anymore. She was confident, resourceful, and capable. She had taken her disappointment, turned it into a plan, and executed it perfectly. He could see it in the way friends and neighbors looked at her with admiration, in the way she moved with quiet pride, in the way the garden seemed alive because of her effort. He swallowed hard, finally smiling faintly, humbled. I see that, Amara. You've really outdone yourself. He wanted to say more, to explain, maybe even apologize, but he realized words weren't enough. Her actions had already spoken louder than anything he could say. Amara nodded, the smallest hint of a victorious smile tugging at her lips. I just want you to know, Dad. I can handle things. I'm not just your little girl anymore. He chuckled quietly, a mixture of pride and embarrassment. The tension in his shoulders eased, replaced by respect. Around them, friends continued to cheer lightly, clapping Amara on the back, sharing her moment. And in that moment, Mr. Okello realized that sometimes lessons weren't about money or rules. They were about honesty, effort, and letting the next generation shine. Amara had not just thrown a party, she had made a statement. And in doing so, she had shown her father, and everyone watching, that she was no longer a child to be guided, but a young woman to be admired. After the party began winding down, and the last of the guests said their goodbyes, Amara stayed in the garden for a few quiet moments. The twinkling fairy lights reflected in her tired but satisfied eyes. She sank onto a bench, letting herself finally breathe. The excitement had faded, leaving space for reflection, a quiet, deep kind of satisfaction. She thought back to the morning, when her heart had sunk at her father's refusal. She remembered the shock of seeing his Instagram story, the anger and betrayal that had made her feel small. And now, looking at what she had created, she realized something important. Disappointment didn't have to be the end of a dream. It could be fuel. Her frustration and hurt had pushed her to plan, organize, and execute something she didn't think she could. Amara smiled to herself. She had learned that resilience wasn't just a word adults threw around. It was about standing up, figuring out a way forward, and trusting herself to make things happen. Creativity wasn't just about art or music. It was about problem solving and turning challenges into opportunities. And independence. Independence was knowing she could celebrate her life and her achievements, even without approval. She picked up her phone and, with a gentle smile, posted a story. A few pictures of the garden, her friends laughing, cupcakes arranged neatly on the table. In the caption, she thanked everyone who had helped her make the day special. It was subtle, almost casual, but there was a pointed pride behind it. She had done it herself, and she wanted the world and her father to see that. Across the garden, Mr. Okello watched quietly. He didn't need the story to know what had happened. He had been there, seen the lights, the smiles, the laughter. But watching Amara post, he felt the weight of the lesson settle in. This wasn't just about Instagram or appearances. It was about respect, trust, and honesty in family relationships. He realized that telling the truth and valuing her feelings mattered more than any carefully curated social media post. Amara noticed him watching, and she gave a small nod, almost imperceptible but full of meaning. It wasn't about confrontation anymore. It was about understanding. They both knew that boundaries, lessons, and rules had their place, but so did trust and respect. As she leaned back, letting the gentle night air wash over her, she felt a sense of growth that went deeper than any party could ever represent. She had taken control of her disappointment and turned it into something beautiful, meaningful, and lasting. And in doing so, she had shown herself and her father that maturity, courage, and creativity could change not just a day, but a relationship. For the first time that night, Amara felt completely proud, not just of the party, but of herself. And in the quiet glow of the garden, father and daughter shared a moment of unspoken understanding, both learning something that no story or picture could fully capture. The next morning, Amara woke to her phone buzzing nonstop. Notifications had piled up overnight, and she couldn't stop smiling as she scrolled through them. Her Instagram was full of messages, comments, and DMs from friends, neighbors, and even people she didn't know personally. Everyone was praising her creativity, her determination, and her ability to turn what had started as disappointment into something extraordinary. "Wow, Amara, you're amazing," one comment read. "This is goals," another said, complete with fire and clapping emojis. Even some of her father's friends had chimed in, tagging each other in posts and joking about how she had stolen the show. The garden, the lights, the laughter, they weren't just memories now. They were proof of her resourcefulness and initiative. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood, too. Parents who had attended the party stopped by her house later that day, congratulating her on the decorations, the organization, and the sheer fun everyone had experienced. Neighbors who hadn't been invited called to ask about her next event or to compliment her on handling everything herself. The small community that often noticed who had what, who spent what, now saw a new story, one of effort, intelligence, and grace outshining any wealth or status. Meanwhile, Mr. Okello found himself the subject of good-natured teasing. His friends and colleagues laughed lightly when they saw her posts, joking about his tight-fisted parenting and how Amara had outdone him without even trying. He smiled awkwardly at first, feeling both pride and a sting of humility. It was impossible not to admire what she had achieved. She hadn't just celebrated a birthday. She had quietly taught him a lesson about honesty, trust, and respect, in a way that everyone could see. Amara, scrolling through all the praise, felt a warm satisfaction unlike anything she had expected. This wasn't about revenge or showing him up. It was about proving to herself and the world that initiative and intelligence matter. She had turned a small, personal disappointment into a moment that celebrated her growth, creativity, and independence. People weren't just cheering for a party. They were cheering for her resourcefulness and courage. By the evening, even her father couldn't avoid the lesson. He watched quietly as Amara responded to messages, shared photos, and smiled at her accomplishments. The lesson wasn't about the party itself. It was about the principle behind it. Amara had shown that hypocrisy and excuses could be met with action, honesty, and grace. For Amara, this recognition felt like poetic justice, sweet, affirming, and completely deserved. She had transformed frustration into joy, disappointment into achievement, and a no into an unforgettable story that everyone, including her father, would remember for a long time. And in that moment, she understood that social karma was real. Effort, intelligence, and integrity always found a way to shine. Later that evening, after the last guest had left and the garden was quiet, Amara and her father sat together on the porch. The soft glow of the fairy lights lingered, casting a warm, gentle light over them. Silence stretched for a moment, comfortable but heavy with unspoken thoughts. Finally, Mr. Okello spoke, his voice low but steady. "I see now, you didn't just want a party. You wanted to teach me something." His eyes, usually so controlled, softened with a mix of pride and humility. He had watched her take disappointment and turn it into creativity, independence, and joy, and he realized that the lesson wasn't about money or rules. It was about trust, respect, and understanding. Amara smiled, feeling a calm satisfaction. "I learned, Dad. I learned that I can handle more than I thought, that I can create my own happiness. But next time, don't underestimate me." Her tone was light but firm, carrying confidence and a little playful warning. She could see the warmth returning to her father's expression, the pride he tried to hide mingling with a newfound respect. He chuckled, a deep, honest sound, shaking his head slightly. "I'm proud of you, Amara," he admitted. "You've grown into someone I can truly admire." There was a quiet peace in the way he said it, as if he understood for the first time that parenting wasn't just about limits and rules. It was also about seeing, trusting, and supporting who she was becoming. They sat together for a while, watching the soft night settle over the neighborhood. The lesson of the day had been learned. Disappointment could spark growth, challenges could fuel creativity, and honesty and effort mattered more than appearances. Amara felt empowered, her father humbled, and both shared a quiet understanding that this birthday had changed more than just one day. It had strengthened their bond, teaching respect, trust, and the power of taking control of your own story.